maintaining that angle, retaining the lag there, so you can create more body rotational speed as opposed to flash speed.
What about my legs? Are they looking better?
Much better. You see they're separating there. You're actually feeling almost like your upper body's in a position where you can hit it there, and centrifugal force now is more involved in you hitting the golf ball.
You can get a bit more zip to it now, yeah.
Much better, much better. Very good there. Delayed the angle really well on that one there. You could see how you sustained it, held it off there, and the resistance and the torque are far greater at this point in time.
I feel the most important aspect of my game at the moment is my resistance I managed to create now in my leg action. I feel nice and solid with my knees. I've got far more stretch to the top of the backswing. Then I resist my right side coming down and then let it release through the shot. Now, it's no use working on the swing if we haven't got this correct. This really is one of the keys to your golf. And when I bring David in now, we're going to show you that the bad positions that you get into with your posture and what that creates throughout the swing.
One of the things I see constantly with amateurs, Nick, is that they tend to line themselves up way to the right.
Yeah.
And from there, certainly you're going to be compensating.
Yeah, I think I've seen this as well. Obviously, I play with a lot of amateurs in pro-ams, and what they do is they would aim too much to the right. Automatically, you start thinking, well, now there's the target. So your shoulder plane now has to obviously open up, which automatically pushes the weight onto your left foot. So you can see how unbalanced they are to start off with. And then from this position, it's very difficult with the weight on this side to get wide on the backswing, so it gets a little steep here. Again, the subconscious tells them this is the direction to the target, so they come over the top. This angle remains the same, and they hit down on it. And what happens is, if you approach that swing with a shut club face, that's going to produce the big hook. So I'll show you one of those there, and a familiar sound of it hitting the trees. And obviously, if you do the same swing, but if you have an open club face coming over the top and staying here, it's going to produce that big slice. So David, what have they now got to do to get themselves back into the right position?
Well, obviously the first thing we have to do is start at setup and get ourselves, or get the amateur to set himself up where he's parallel left of the target, and so from there on he can start to make a good swing, because certainly with the shoulders left and part of his body to the right, his divot, as yours was, is looking to the left, isn't it?
It's heading left. And the hardest thing for them is when they now square up their stance, because they've been so used to having this weight on the left side, they've really got to have the feeling of loading up the right knee, as we would call it, moving your weight to the right side. And you can see automatically by doing that, I'm now getting myself in a much better position. From this earlier position, you can see the shoulder line. Now I've now got the correct shoulder position with my left shoulder slightly higher than the right.
That's it. So now we've got sort of our knees and our hips and our shoulders all on line here, rather than having one part in one direction and the other part in another. So that's a very good start there. So from there, you're going to certainly make a much better directional move away from the ball rather than swing it way inside. So let's swing it back there to the top there. Good. Some good width there, good turn. The back is nicely behind the ball now. We can see the weight is now where? On your right side.
Well, weight onto my right knee. That's the important thing. You've got to get the feeling of this weight moving over to this right knee. That's so important. There.
Good. Now from here we can start to release the club by allowing our right arm to straighten out here as the left shoulder starts to move up very slightly there. We can see the left shoulder moves up before it moves around, and this is the big thing, the right arm straightening, rather than, as we see with the person who comes outside in, this angle stays here for too long a period of time.
Yeah, I think you want to get the feeling of, the one arm swing is a great exercise. Once you've got yourself correctly aligned, see how lovely and wide that is up there, and as you start down, this club automatically, through the weight of it, is going to separate away. What we call the distance between the right hand and the right shoulder is getting greater all the time. But also, for the advanced golfer, you want to maintain this set position of the wrist. We don't want to get that old feeling of the casting effect. That's out, because you can see what happens as you come down. The club is automatically going left again. But that's taking one thing a little bit further. So separate there and then release him. Now you've got him in the correct position, and you can release it all the way through for the first time and keep the whole of the right side going round and getting your belt buckle facing your target. So let me hit one there. Weight on the right side, really get nice and wide and separate this arm here. Here's a very simple and effective exercise. Remember earlier on we talked about how we wanted to get this separation between the right shoulder and the right hand coming down. We'll simply just swing it one arm and just clip the top of the grass. Just a few times. I might use this a lot on the golf course. Gets the feeling of the release going. And then when you get a little bit more adventurous, try and hit one off a tee peg. You'll probably find this pretty difficult to start with. I certainly did. You'll hit a few hooks left, but then once you get the feel of where this right hand is and the club face is through impact, and hit a nice straight shot. There we go, that's not bad. So just try that a few times. Certainly on the golf course it's going to promote a lovely release and get you going and get some acceleration to your swing. David, did you manage to spot anything wrong with that one?
Well, I think it looks a lot better, Nick. You've obviously been practicing.
All right.
Anyhow, certainly this is a very common problem we see with players, and I think probably a couple of the myths in the golf swing are to swing in to out, and that type of player, you see if you want to set up to the ball there, as we saw there, there's a lot of weight back on the right side here, and then swing the club way inside there with a closed club face. And as a result, at the top of the swing, the weight is actually now too much onto this side of the body. You can see that's what we call a reverse pivot, because as you come down now, as you swing down, you hang back here and you really have to sort of use your hand. So with that closed club face, certainly you're going to hit that sort of pull hook there that you just did, and very common what we see amongst many amateurs. So to start with, we've got to get the basics right, get the grip and the posture correct.
Yeah, obviously the hardest thing to work on, as you know, is that any change in the grip takes some time, but in something like this you really need to work on it. So we get it back to a neutral grip and then trying to get all the weight forward again. Obviously we want it back to central, but when you come from this sort of position it will actually feel like you're ahead of the ball, which is what you need to do. So if you lift your right heel off the ground a fraction, that's automatically going to push the weight correctly onto the balls of the feet as opposed to being back here on your heels. So the right heel is up a little bit. I'm now more on top, I've got a much better grip, and there we are. I've got a much better chance now to work the club away with the body and then up. That's the feeling you want to be getting there, and then the arms working up, because you've been working it round here so much and away to get the feeling of there, arms up, and the same going through.
The start of the swing is important, because you see as you take the club back here, this first move away here, as your body moves, you can see how your navel, that's what you've spoken about quite frequently, moves, and the club moves with it. So at this point, the hands really stay very close to your leg, and the club head appears to be going fairly straight back.
And we turn up and through. So let's try one of those. I'll lift my right heel up, feel as if I'm a little more to my left side. Well, it's certainly cured the snap hook.
That's one of the quickest improvements I've seen, Nick.
Thank you very much, sir.
Well, that looks a lot like your old leg action, Nick, that big slidey move there.
Yeah, I think that's one of the areas that came as a bit of a shock to me when I first started working with you, because I always believed in having a big sort of lateral movement through the ball. I always used to believe it. When I got to the top of the backswing, I had to start down with a massive leg action, driving forward. And what it did to me was, obviously, as you can see, it lost my level considerably. And the two shots you get, which I've just demonstrated, if your leg action goes forward, it totally blocks you, and then you would hit it right. And if it's going forward again, then suddenly stops because you fear it going right, then if this stops moving, then the arms and hands are going to keep moving, and you can then see what happens to the club face. It comes round and shuts and hooks the ball. So David, why don't we explain how my leg action has changed and what I'm trying to do now?
Well, No question, we're trying to make your legs a sort of a stabilizer in your golf swings, where they support the rest of your swing. Because no question, many players who tend to use their legs too much, in fact, they end up using their hands and arms more than they need to compensate. And this is a big problem. So the legs need to really stay in a very constant position there, and the least movement, the better. Certainly they work through impact, but before that, they need to really solidify the swing. So once you just swing the club back there and make the movement to the top there, and we can see that you've moved a little into your right side, but I think the big key is making sure that that right knee stays flexed, that you really sit on that knee. You can see a lot of tension and pressure on top of your thigh there. Yeah, that's good. Then from here, now as we start in the opposite direction, we can see that the left knee will start to move very slightly, but the legs really hold there and wait for the hands and arms to catch up. Now you can turn them through as hard as you like. Now you can clear your hips and drive your knees. But the key is when you do it, you don't want to drive your legs too early.
Yeah, I think that's the important thing, which I've had to learn these last few years. You've got to wait for this. You start the momentum of everything moving left with this, what we call separation here, is that the left knee separates away from the right. But this is such a key area, the right knee. I mean, a lot of the clinics I've been doing lately, I feel I can cure a lot of people just simply getting their leg action correct, keeping their knee action nice and firm. Now, once you've got this, then the top half of the body can start working and pulling against the knees. And you remember that old drill that we did with the towel under our arms? Let's just quickly recap on that one, because I think what we've seen now, a lot of people have been using this, but I think they got a little carried away. And I know, David, that the idea of the exercise is simply to go to maybe an 8-iron maximum, and it's a 3/4 swing, because, of course, as you get past this area, the arms automatically go wider and separate, and obviously you would drop the towel. And I think you've seen, Dave, even people trying to hit a driver with this.
Yes, I have. They really misinterpreted the drill. It's really just to keep your arms and body working together with your legs supporting the whole thing.
The key thing is to hold your knees nice and firm and resist the movement as much as possible. You lock those into position, and as the top half of the body and the stomach now turns away and the shoulders turn, you see I've got a 3/4 swing, but I've turned everything, and the knees have had a minimal amount of movement, which is correct, and as they pull down here and then release through. So let me just show you once again what we mean by that. Hold the knees and then turn the stomach away. There we go.
It must be emphasized that this drill must only be completed with a 1/2 8-iron or 3/4 8-iron maximum, because we're not after distance, we're simply trying to get the arms and the body swinging together. Nick, although you can only hit little 3/4 8-irons with the towel, with this little teaching aid that I have called the Swing Link, it enables you actually to hit full shots and get the feeling of your arms and body working together.
Sure.
So let's put this on here. Take a deep breath.
What did the lady captain say when you put this on?
Just put your arms down. There we go. Goes around the chest, over your bicep, and this one here. There we go. One more.
I've got both of them, eh?
Right. You can use one or the other depending on the problem, but basically it helps to keep your arms and your body working together and allow your legs to support the swing.
There we go.
That's it. Good.
See if I can hit one like that. So keep the knees solid and work the shoulders.
Very good. That's the way.
Hit one more. The thing I enjoy about this is it keeps my top half of my body linked, and by keeping my knees solid throughout the swing, I can really work my shoulders as hard as I like through the ball. I think it's very important now we start back, go back a stage or two and come back to the basics, because they are so important with the game. We must concentrate on these, and I feel that if you can work on these and study it, what you see I'm doing, if you're fortunate enough to have a video and you're able to put yourself on film for a few shots and then put my video on and then come back and see if you compare a few of the positions, because it's something that David and I, or certainly David has stressed to me ever since I started working with him, that my basics, certainly my grip, my alignment and my posture are really key to my game, so they're certainly going to be key to yours. So let's start back with the grip again. And one way to make life a little easier for you to obtain the grip is you notice how your arms hang in this natural position. So if you can take your grip by placing the club at an angle here, then you can then apply your left hand to the grip like so, and it's more comfortable. It's more like a more natural position as where the arms are turned in. So grip him there, and as you can see, the thumb now is to the right of centre, and that's a good position. You can see the V here is heading somewhere towards your neck or your right shoulder, and that gives you a good solid neutral grip. And the club face, of course, is square. And you simply apply your right hand. I use the Varden grip with the baby finger, slots in there. But the important thing is to get the two palms of your hands facing each other so they unite together, and then we have like the trigger effect with this finger here, and that gets it nice and comfortable. So there's a grip. And the most important thing is, of course, it's nice and relaxed. I mean, so many people ask you how hard you grip the club. Well, it's in there firm enough. You can't take it out of my hand, but of course I can do this. I've got to have a nice relaxed wrists and arms, so I've got plenty of mobility. Now remember, the club goes diagonally through the hand into your palm, but the most important thing is to keep that pressure nice and even. Amateurs find sloping lies particularly difficult. I'm going to show you how the ball reacts from the different situations, how to get our posture into that to suit each situation, and then for the advanced player, I'll show you a couple of shots that I can play. Let's start with probably the easiest of the sloping lies, is when the ball is above the feet. Now the correct way to play this is first move it back a fraction in your stance. And what I always do is choke down a good inch on the club, and then what we want to do is let the slope dictate our slightly flatter backswing. So let it happen, let it turn here. What I'd also do is probably have my body would be a little bit more passive, and I'm just going to work with the arms back and round and following the slope of the land. Now what will also happen with that, because the ball is above the feet and the toe of the club is up, is it's going to produce a draw or even a hook, depending on how severe the slope is. So don't fight that. I think if you try to fight that, that's where a lot of people get into their faults, where they probably stay with the original stance, the ball too far forward, club, they probably try to lean away from it because they're gripping at the normal length, and probably pick the club up and try to steer it down there, and you probably would hit a straight pull in that situation. So let's move him back a little bit, choke down, and swing with just the arms. And that produces the slight draw.
Now this one's a difficult shot, Nick, even for good players when the ball is below your feet, because balance is the big problem here. So what we have to do is learn to set up to the ball so we can maintain good balance through the swing. Because many handicapped golfers tend to lose their balance, their weight goes towards their toes, and they really move all over the shot as they're making the swing. So let's take your address position there. Now we can see if you make the normal address position, how easy it would be to get forward onto your toes.
Yeah, you'd fall through and probably be getting pretty close to promoting a shank, wouldn't you, if you're falling through after the shot?
Certainly would. I've seen that with many club golfers. Make a slightly wider stance.
Okay.
Put the ball further forward to allow for the club to come down on a slightly steeper angle of attack. Now hold the club up the end as far as you can, even if you feel like part of the hand is off the end of the club. That gives you maximum length with the shaft, you see, to get to the ball. Right, now this type of lie will dictate that the ball's going to move left to right severely, because the ball will follow the shape of the slope.
Yeah.
And also, it's going to make us swing more upright. So you can see here, this is what we need to try to do, is promote a little bit more up and down swing. We don't want a normal plane because it'll be too far around ourselves, and that will make us then either fall back or conversely naturally fall forward into the shot.
Okay.
So why don't you just make a swing there, get good rhythm here, and go ahead.
Pick it up and then try and stay, keep my weight on the heels and pull through left, yeah?
Exactly.
Okay. A lot of people complain that the camera hides the severity of the slopes. I think that might prove otherwise.
Well, let's have a look at this shot here, Nick. This downhill lie, and once again, it's pretty much a case of balance and learning how to set up correctly to the slope. Now take your normal dress position here, and we can see if you do that, if I put this shaft here or the flag across your shoulder, so you can see it's not parallel with the slope at all. So now what we've got to try to do is get yourself where your body is more parallel to the slope. So the weight now is going more onto your left side, and to compensate for that you need to put the ball back in your stance, don't you?
Okay.
There we go. So we can see here now that the slopes are more parallel to the flag, and from there you can now make a swing which is very similar to your normal golf swing without making too many adjustments.
Yeah, I think if you'd stayed back in your original address position, obviously as you take it back you've got problems getting the club away. So move that weight forward, move the ball back. Remember, because the now ball is coming out at a much lower trajectory, you can use one club less or even two, and then follow through going down after the ball. Now I'd like to show you two shots on the uphill line. One which I'd recommend for the club members, when I would like you to get your weight behind the ball to help loft it into the air. And for the advanced players, as I mentioned earlier, I'd actually break those rules and put my weight further forward so I can hit down and through, make a few other adjustments, because I'd still like to get a lower trajectory, maybe if I'm playing in the wind in this situation. So let me stand in my normal dress position, and David will show you with the aid of the pin again how to move our weight over.
Now, certainly in all situations on slopes, we want to try to get parallel to the slope for most golfers. Now we can see here, as with in Nick's case, when he sets up normally to the ball, the flag is too level here. So we need to try to get his spine tilted to the right here. Good, the weight will then move back to the right side. Now we've got his body now more parallel to the slope. This is very important. And certainly for most golfers, they're going to put the ball further forward. And seeing the ball's going to go quite a bit higher, we've got to take another club or so in order to allow for that difference.
Yeah, and the swing remains very similar. Obviously in this position it actually makes it easier to get a nice low, wide takeaway, and then we're hitting through and up and sweeping the ball up over the hill. So stay back on it and sweep it up. And that produces the high shot. Now, what I sometimes will do when I want a lower trajectory, I move my weight further forward onto my left foot here and keep it there throughout the swing, so I have like a 3/4 of a backswing, but as I come through the shot and approach an impact, I fold my left arm a little earlier, because obviously if I keep going, I'm going to go into this bank, into this steep slope, and get a lot of resistance. So as I enter impact, just fold the arm up a little bit more. The weight on the left side, 3/4 swing, and fold it up. And you can see that's flying a much lower trajectory, and I can almost hit it its normal length. Now, feel and tempo are very important parts to your golf swing. We've talked very much of the mechanics, but once you're on the golf course, you can't start thinking too much of the mechanics. You've got to let it all happen and get some feel into your game. And here's a little exercise I want to show you where what we're trying to do is just keep the club swinging in motion all the way through these 8 balls. It teaches you great hand and eye coordination and great feel of where the club head is. So all I want you to do is walk down the line and simply hit them away. So here we go. And keep it swinging in motion all the way through. Keep your eyes on the ball, back and through. And it's as simple as that. Now we move to the short game department of pitching, chipping, bunker shots and putting. Now, to show the importance we now place on this when I'm playing around the world, I actually carry with me 4 wedges now. I have my main wedge, I hit up to 125 yards, one that goes about 110, I have a sand wedge that goes to about 95 yards, and a sand wedge of about 60 degrees now, which is new to me, which I hit up to about 75 yards. So I can go to each tournament and assess the ones that I need. I mean, I'm now starting to carry 3 wedges. For the first time in the US Open, I carried this medium wedge here. I felt I needed that on the odd occasion, and for the Open Championship, I didn't use this one, and then put in the 60-degree wedge. So it's learning to assess, because the short game is the vital part for professional golf. It's your scoring link. It's the one that saves your shots. You're going to miss plenty of greens throughout the world, all your golf you play. We need to get those up and down. And then on the par fives, if we give ourselves a chance to pitch it close and make the birdies, we need those to keep the score going. And for amateurs, unfortunately, it seems to be an area where they seem to be losing shots all the time. So, Dave, if you can come in and we will start, I'll hit a few shots first, and you can tell them how I work on those, and then we go through some faults and things. So, what have I got here?
Well, you've got about 40 yards to the hole, Nick, and 20 yards to the edge of the green, so probably pitching at about between 5 and 10 yards on the green there is going to give you the right amount of roll to the hole.
Okay, I've chosen my softest wedge, as I would call it. It's got a nice feel. There we go.
Not bad without any practice. Well, hitting this shot here, it's very much like a mini golf swing. Certainly the length of the swing dictates the length of the shot, and really you can see the tempo is very, very smooth here. There's no jerkiness to it. I think when amateurs play this shot here, the problem is they get very jerky on it and have no consistency as far as how far they hit it. You find all the great professionals are all able to control how far they hit each shot. Minimum of body movement here. We can see very much a hands and arms stroke, although the body is involved some, but it's much more curtailed than in a full swing. Well, those are pretty consistent, Nick.
Yeah, I think what I try to concentrate on is really to get the top half of the body doing all the work, the shoulders rocking in a nice simple motion. You want to let your arms sort of hang, make them feel nice and heavy in a way, so you're just letting the shoulders use it. Obviously you have to have a little bit of wrist action, as we talked about. I've got to get a little bit of feel all the time in the swing.
You stand a little open to it, don't you?
Yeah, I always stand open, but my legs aren't doing anything. They're just holding me nice and firm, and work with those shoulders and keeping a good, nice brisk tempo to it. You've got to be aggressive on these shots.
That looks good. I think it's also important to note when people do set up to it that although they want to stand open, it's really only the feet and the hips that are open. The shoulders are still fairly parallel to your target line.
Yeah, and the ball position is probably very important, although you can vary that, of course, to the type of shot that you're trying to play. Obviously, if you're trying to hit it low, you move the ball back, or high, but initially I think everything sort of homes in front of you, doesn't it? You want to keep, you don't feel as if the ball's getting away from you. You can feel nice and close to the shot, feel nice and comfortable on top of the shot is what sort of the feeling I have.
And choking down on the club also gives you a little bit more control as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, as you can see, I'm down a couple of inches. It's just a feel shot. We're not trying to power it or anything. I'm just trying to take the ball cleanly off the turf, hitting a divot, slight divot afterwards, and just zip it through. Okay, so what about their faults?
Well, a lot of shots I see amateurs play here, Nick, the divot seems to go further than the ball. So normally that's as a result of picking the club up very sharply and chopping down on it.
Yeah.
So the key really is, although it is a pitching wedge and the plane will be fairly upright, it's still very important to get the club swinging around, back to the ball, and then back around again. We don't want it to get too steep on it or too vertical on it. And
yeah, I think some of the emphasis, a lot of people would say, always move your weight to the left, don't you, on a pitch shot. That is true, but it's only slight. I think a lot of people get carried away and thinking, I've got to put so much on the left foot, and this automatically becomes steep, and they hit down in this sort of action. So try and feel well balanced, and try and get, as we're saying, get the shoulders to still control the shot.
Right. Now the other thing too, certainly many golfers tend to try to lift the ball in the air, literally not allowing the lot on the club to do the work.
Yeah, I think they scoop it, don't they? They get afraid of the shot, and if you're coming back on it, you're going to get him every time, aren't you?
That's right. So the key element in the golf swing, obviously, is to have good tempo, and that applies equally to this shot as well.
Yeah. I thought with one little tip for the guy who does lean back and try to scoop it, was maybe raise his right heel off the ground a fraction, so he does start to feel as if he's a little bit further forward. Obviously, it's very difficult for us to describe your feelings when we can't see you, but if you're somebody who you do detect that you're always back and maybe hitting it fat before the ball, ground before the ball, maybe get that right heel off the ground a little bit. That will help you get forward on the shot, a little bit more on top, and hit down and through. And then they'll use the loft on the club to get the ball airborne. Now hopefully we grasped the basics. Now let's add a little bit of variety to these pitch shots. Now in a situation like this, you can see I'm using 3 clubs. I've got my pitching wedge, 8-iron and 6-iron. Now simply because I have 3 different shots to play here, with a pin at the front, middle and at the back. Now this front pin, what we want to do is land the ball just on the green and let it roll to that pin. Now what we always try to achieve in our pitching is always getting the ball to land on the green first, because we know what that surface is like, we know how soft, how firm it is, we know what speed it's going to run at. Trying to run it through the fringe all the time, a lot of variables, we really don't know what it's going to do. Sometimes obviously we have to do that. Now the reason we land the ball a couple of yards on the green is we can use the same stroke, the same tempo, and with those 3 different clubs, let that variety of loft do all the work for you. Let's start with the pitching wedge first. Now as I was saying, I want to just get that ball to land a couple of yards onto the green, and it should check up. A little firm. It's a nice, easy, delicate stroke, just played with the arms and shoulders. Let's move on to the 8-iron now. Now with this shot, hopefully you're going to see that what I was saying earlier, that the stroke will be very similar, lengthwise, to those pitching wedges. Again, trying to land the ball a couple of yards on the green, pick a spot, chip him onto it, and that should release through to the pin. There we go. And again, I feel as if I'm playing these shots with my right hand. That's your feel hand. It's like a little underarm bowl to get that right hand through. It's always important to keep the tempo in your pitching. You know, very much 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. Because if you slow down and deaccelerate, that's going to cause problems. Right, let's try some longer ones with the 6-iron. Now, the problem I find with a 6-iron is quite often I'd hit it too hard. I think with this stroke, you just use the loft of the club. Again, try and get it onto the green those couple of yards and use that loft and that's going to send the ball running. So keep it at a small stroke, but with plenty of rhythm and tempo to it. So, there we go. You can see how much that is running. Hello, hello. Aha. So just really try and make the arms feel dead almost, a nice and heavy sort of feeling to them so they can act like a pendulum to the shot. So just relax them. There we go. This is the secret to a great short game. Remember that old advert saying it was all in the wrist action? Well, it's exactly what it is for your short game. You've got to be able to do this with your right hand, the way it naturally hinges and unhinges in total freedom. Now, if you imagine that you're out swishing leaves with a stick, now you see exactly what your right wrist is doing. See how relaxed it is? You can go at any speed, slow, fast, and that is what you need to be able to play a short game correctly. To use your variety of shots that we're going to show you, you've got to be able to do this. Now, a little simple exercise I feel you can do is all I want you to do is loft this ball over that one in 3 different ways by the wrist action. Now, you can do this anywhere, on the golf course, around the chipping green, at home in the back garden, and if you get permission from her indoors, you can do it on the carpet. Now, all I want you to do is get the feeling of this right hand just hinging back and then releasing through. So I'll start from a normal position where I want the hand to just go backwards and forwards on a level plane. That's what I think is going to be your normal stroke. So there. So watch how it just hinges back and through. Remember what I said, all I want you to do is just loft it over that. So it's the right wrist back and through. body movement is zero. We're just working purely, all our concentration is here. A nice relaxed right wrist to get that sort of action. Now, second little test is I want you to feel as if you're lofting the club face. As the club face comes through, I want you to feel as if this right hand is increasing the loft, so now the club face is pointing towards the sky even more. So get the feeling of that, the right wrist releasing under. And you can just pop it up a little higher then. Get the feeling of a little crisp shot with that right wrist. There we go. And then the third one is to be able to make the wrist roll and shut the club face. Get the feeling of de-lofting the club there. And for that, move the ball back a little bit, get it coming a little bit more inside, and then roll that wrist forward to hit it low along the ground, just over the top of that ball. So just take it inside and roll it over. I mean, that's going to be so useful when you need to play those little chip and run shots you want them to run up the green. But the main objective of this exercise is teaching you how to loosen up with this right wrist and get it to operate. You must have that in your short game. Every great player has got it. You've got to have the freedom and the play in this right wrist. If you can spend 5 minutes a day working on that, you're going to master the short game. Right now, this is a perfect situation to use our newfound wrist action for these kind of shots, where I'm only 30 feet from the hole, but I've got quite a difficult selection of lies here, so I've got to get this right wrist working well through the shot to pick the ball out of the grass and loft it onto the green. So the first lie, I'll try my normal one, where I just want the right hand moving backwards and forwards, feel as if it's on a level plane, lovely and relaxed, to get this feel to it. You can even have a couple of practice swishes like this, and there we go. So keep it relaxed, body's not doing anything. Bop it through, there we go, that's better. And then as the ball goes down a little bit deeper, maybe I'll try the one where I get the feeling of the right hand is increasing the loft onto the club face. See as it turns through, the face is now pointing skyward. So have a practice swing, get the feel of that going under, and see if we can do that. Pretty good. And then the third one, when we get a tuft of grass behind the ball, you know, we can't loft it out like that, so we've got to accept we're going to try and play that running shot. So remember that one, how we move the ball back a little inside and get the feeling of this, the face is now rolling over a little and just shutting the face, de-lofting the club now, and that will send the ball running forward. So have a quick practice swing, keep that tempo to the swing. Tough lie, but at least I got it moving out from that situation. So there's the position where we can use that wrist action. Remember, start on what we worked on earlier on, practicing those little 2-yard shots, get the feel going, and it's going to help you tremendously out here on the course. Now, once you've become a little bit more accomplished with your wedge play, you may want to try and get a little bit more adventurous as well. And there are certain situations on the golf course when you want to be in control of the ball when it hits the green. You either want to make it stop very quickly or even make it run that little bit more. So I want to make this one stop just that little bit more. David, what do you think I should do?
Well, I think, Nick, the first thing to realize is that you need to obviously have the face more open. So why don't you set up to the ball there, and maybe hands a little further ahead. Now the big thing is that you're going to feel that your body's a little bit more aggressive here, a little bit more knee action here, and really the key is to try to hold the club off where you don't release this angle.
So I want to keep this there.
That's it. Yeah? The angle at the back of your right wrist through here is really needs to be held through the shot.
Okay, hold that.
That's it.
There. And keep the club face sort of open even though it's right way through in this position.
Exactly.
Okay. So let's see if I can thump one in there. Oh, that certainly stopped.
You've got some juice on that one. This is particularly effective from bad lies or specifically tight lies.
Yeah, okay, let's put one in the divot where it just came. I think this is when you really want to get that slightly more outside angle, isn't it? And squeeze the ball out of that tight line.
Right, it's the feeling that you're actually pulling the club more across you as you swing through.
So pull it a little more left and hold it off.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Very good. Now let's have a look at one that's going to roll a little bit more, release a bit more when it hits the green.
So I guess we start off by moving it back a little bit.
Yeah, move it back in the stance a little bit. That's right. Now this time we're going to get the club moving a little bit more around our body here, so we can go ahead and actually release the right hand more, so the toe, in fact, turns over there. There we go.
Get that feeling, yeah. Just roll it.
That's it. That's it.
Okay.
Fairly shallow angle back to the ball.
Okay. It even gives it a little bit of draw as well, doesn't it?
That's right. And that ball will really run on.
Yeah, that will run a few extra yards.
That's a great equalizer. Having control over that club really allows you to be very aggressive, and even if you miss a green, you're not too worried, are you?
Let's hit one more running one, see if I can really get a bit of run on this.
Okay. Inside a little.
There we go. I like the draw.
Very good.
Well, there we go. 2 little shots to add to your game, and I'm sure you're going to find them very useful. Bunker play is an area that strikes fear into a lot of club members' hearts. And really it shouldn't, because if we can go back to the basics again, remember how much we covered it on my first tape. Let me just run over a few things to just simplify it and help you get out of the bunker. Now, first of all, when you come into the bunker, remember we talked about our target line here through the ball. So basically we can pop a line down in the sand, give us some idea. Now remember, we want a glancing blow coming across the sand to lift the ball out. And then we dig our feet in. The ball is now placed somewhere towards our left heel, something like that. Stance, the weight is nice and even, knees bent. You can see how much the body is now and the feet are pointing left. Something like 30 degrees. You don't want to go too far. You don't want to get up to 45 degrees, otherwise the angle is too sharp across the ball and you won't get any forward motion to the shot. So about 30 degrees. The club face is then held open, but open in your grip, remember. We don't want you to just simply open the face, because it will automatically come back to the natural position. You open the club face and then grip the club. So the club face is now a little open to that target line. And the club now swings on our shoulder plane, which automatically takes it a little bit outside the line and then back through. Now, one thing I think I do a lot, which helps me, is after I've got the club to this position, we don't want to keep going too steep in this angle. You must remember, when the club gets to here, we want to lay the club off a little bit, which shallows the plane out and makes it easier to strike through the shot. So take him away outside, and you want to get the feeling of the club in this sort of angle. That will help you considerably. So it's way there and through. Remember, the knees stay very static, the body's not moving too much. It's really an arms and shoulders motion. So let's hit a couple and get the feel back. There we go. As you can see, that the most important thing of bunker shot motion is nice and smooth back and then accelerate through. If we start stopping or killing snakes, as Gerald Mcllroy used to describe my bunker play years ago, there, hit through. And that's really the basics to it. We're working just a little bit across the line. We don't want to be too much across. I'll show you, if you come too hard across, you get no forward motion to get the ball out of the bunker. So just keep it a little outside and through. And stay with the shot. That's the important thing. I think a lot of people would be trying to help it up. Don't get into a scooping sort of mode or anything like that. Hit down and through and trust that the bounce on the club will get that ball heading towards the pin. Now that's a quick recap on bunker play. Now David, you come in here, and I think we're going to help the amateurs into their problems. And I wonder if you agree with me. I see two problems when I play with the amateurs on the golf course. One is they try to pick the shot, the ball off the sand with no body movement, no explosion of the sand. They're sort of afraid of it and they try this sort of fella.
Correct.
And the other one I usually see is they believe they've got to move, hell and high water and absolutely try and muscle it out. So
that's right.
How would we cure that?
Well, I think the thing is people need to understand that, first of all, that you actually hit a bunker shot more with an open face from a regular lie, and most amateur golfers tend to close the face, and they're really not using the sand wedge in the correct manner. So by setting up to it, if you just take your address position there, we can see that the club face is actually aimed at the target or almost slightly right of it. And as you swing the club back, let's swing it back there, and we can see, right, now take it back to the top there, you can see the face is very open at this point. Now if you can just swing it back again, Nick, for me. You can see at this point here, we see many amateurs have the face closed, especially when they try to take it outside too much. So swinging the club on the line of your body with the face fairly open will allow you to get the right angle onto it. And just swing it through nice and smoothly. Yeah. And finally, I think just maintaining the flex in your knees without trying to help it.
Yeah, I think you've got to, you don't want to try and come up on the shot, that's what you're saying. Just try and keep everything level, keep your knees. This right knee is a great key. I often use that. If I can keep my right knee still, I can pull off that right knee, pull down with my hands with this stationary, and then release through. Let me just try one of those. There we go, that's better.
That's very good.
Now we've given you the basics of the bunker shot, but after that, the next important thing we've got to learn to understand is actually reading the sand and what we can do with that lie. I was fortunate enough to see Gary Player do it at this sort of clinic. Obviously, once we've got the stroke correct, obviously we're then going to get downhill lies, uphill lies, but in this situation, reading the sand determines what we can do. Now I've got 4 lies here. A very good lie, one slightly further down, and progressively getting down, right down to this plug ball there. Now what's going to happen with these 4 shots, if I take a normal swing for all 4 of them, they're obviously going to react totally differently. The one out the sand, I can impart quite a lot of backspin and be in control of the shot and get the ball to stop as quickly as possible. And as you can imagine, the deeper it goes into the sand, as you enter the sand, there's going to be more sand between the club face and the ball, less backspin, and the ball's going to run progressively more. And this is something you've got to understand. It's impossible to try and put backspin onto that shot, that lie rather, with it being deep down into the sand. The ball's going to pop out and run quite considerably. Where at this end of the scale, we can do that. We can get a lot of spin, get under that ball, and zip it out and get it to stop. Using the same sort of stroke, I'm going to try and play these 4 shots and show you the difference in the reaction. So first, the good lie, where I can get under the ball and get some spin to it. Secondly, now the ball's a little bit further down, the ball should come out and run a little bit more. There we go. Okay, the third ball is now a little further down into the sand, so that should run a little more. There we go. Yep, see that one releasing. And of course the plug lie, where really all I've got to do is just hit down on the shot onto the front of the green, and it should run all the way up to that pin. It's certainly going to run. There he goes. So there we go. That gives you a basic idea of the different situations, the different lies you're going to find yourself in. Just practice those a little bit and you'll get the feel of what you can do out of the sand. Right, we now move to the putting green, a major part of the game. Obviously, probably the most enjoyable part of the game. If it's all going well, it makes your day, it makes your score. Now, you're often going to see on tour dozens of different styles, but we all have a couple of key things in common. Now, what I want to do is run through those for you, some of my thoughts, and we'll work onto some of the faults and try and cure those. And the simplest way to practice, to build your putting stroke, to start with like a straightforward 6-foot putt, something like uphill. It's hopefully straight, because what I want to be doing is working on my stroke, hit some solid putts, and obviously I want the feedback of seeing the ball go in the hole a few times to give you some confidence. Now, some of the things I work on, I believe, very much the stroke is a pendulum action, and it comes from your shoulders. The arms and hands do very little work. They're obviously moving and flexing. We can't hold it all rigid. You can't keep the wrists solid. They've got to have a bit of movement to them. So I want you to try and get the feeling that your shoulders are the dominant factor. So you get this nice pendulum sort of action. Your putting grip's obviously a very personal part of your game, but the one thing I do believe is your hands have got to be united together. Whether you use an overlap in some sort doesn't really matter. The most important thing is that the hands are facing each other. The palms of your hands are pointing towards each other, and they work together in one unit. So you can just feel the putter in your hands, but they are working as one. Now, what I often do as an exercise, you see me on the putting green, I putt very much with my right hand. I feel that if I've got that correctly in the right place, put my right palm on there, and that's working correctly towards the hole, I hit a couple of putts, and I feel confident that's in the right position. Then I apply my left hand. Then I can then get the feeling if I know that the putter head is working square to my grip.
That's good, Nick. I think the other thing too that a lot of people tend to ask is, how you line up. Well, obviously you need to get the putter face lined up squarely to your target line, and then get your body reasonably parallel, although you personally like to stand a little bit open, as many other top players do, because it's easier to see the line, isn't it?
Yeah, I think a lot of players, I feel as if I'm a right-sided putter now, so I want to get the feeling that this right side is working its way through to the hole, and obviously if I stand square or fractionally shut, I feel as if I'm sort of in a block mode. So there I get the right side high. Again, as you saw, it's very important to get this right hand on in the right position. The right side is a little higher than the left, it feels. And as my stance is a little left, shoulders. But that's important because I can just feel as if I'm getting through the putt better. So there, back and through under the putt. There we go, that's good.
Good, you're really rolling the ball well now. And one of the little tricks that we do at times to make sure you are rolling it well is to actually putt with an iron.
Yeah.
Because if you make a good stroke, you've got a chance then of seeing the ball roll. And this is the key to good putting, be able to get the ball rolling end over end continuously.
Yeah, and the great thing about this little exercise is it really gets you aggressive through the ball. I mean, you can't de-accelerate in any way because it becomes like a little chip. And you're trying to get it right on the center line there. So it's short back and then accelerate through. And if you want to accelerate through an upper fraction, that produces even more top spin. So it's through and up. See if I can line it up. But this is not important to worry about whether you hole it, I should say. I think it's important, obviously, you just work on this feel of back and through, accelerating through the putt. There we go. That keeps the ball rolling and rolling into the hole. There's three very important parts to putting. There's the stroke, there's the direction, and there's the distance. Or we can call it the stroke, the feel of the putt, and reading the greens. Now, we've worked earlier on how to build your stroke. That's why we recommend you work from 6 feet or so, nice straightforward putts, so you can keep firing away on those putts and build some confidence. Now we come to a situation where we've got a breaking putt. We want to learn how to read this, and also we've got to add some feel to it because these are quite quick greens, so there's no good in just picking the wrong line and blasting it away and hoping to get it up there, because that's not going to happen. The mistake a lot of people would make is they would almost they would guess what they feel is the slope, sort of line it up towards the hole and feel, well, they feel this putt's going from left to right, so they'd aim sort of straight and sort of try and hold it against that, thinking they can hold it up against the putt, up against the break, and you see what happens. And what I want to show you is how what you've got to pick in your putt is the point of apex, the top of the putt, where the power of the putt is ended and then the break takes over. Now, you can't curve the ball. Every putt is actually straight. What you want to do is hit the ball from point A to point B, which is your apex, and have the right feel, the right power, the right distance for it to then break into the hole. So obviously we've read the putt and we feel it's now going to be a good 4 feet left. What I try to do is pick a point on the green and hit it towards that and hope I've got the right break and power to get it right. I'll show you another way what I like to do. I'm going to put a T-peg in the ground. We can do this in practice, obviously. I'm guessing that the ball has got to reach somewhere up here, so I'll put a T-peg there because I'm trying to get the main putt to run here and then break into the hole. And another thing to remember, of course, is that this now is the front of the hole. The ball has gone up high and it's coming down here. You've got to look for a flat spot into the hole. Obviously a ball's going to still be breaking here. You've got to look for where it's coming into the hole flat and smooth. So this is now the front of the hole. Obviously not here in line with the putt because it's coming on this big break. So let me try that and see if that is about the right spot. It's also a great way for helping you to read the greens because, you know, I've made this as my guess. Now obviously if I hit it there and it comes off, then I'm reading the greens correctly. So let's see if it's close. So I'm going to aim at that T-peg and hopefully it will then, and hit it to that T-peg, and then hopefully it will then release through. Yeah, that came out a little low, didn't it? That went a little below that T-peg and obviously finished right at the hole. So I need to get one up a little bit higher. So it looks like that might be pretty close, that T-peg to the point. That was better. It's a little higher, just inside the T-peg, and boom. Exactly what I'm trying to say. I think it's time to return to the bar for a swift half.
Nick, just one final thing before we go. Remember that 20 yards we were talking about?
I
the extra
remember,
20?
yes.
Right, now, as your lower body's resisting, I want your upper body to re-rotate in the opposite direction.
20 yards, eh? Right, let's give it a try.
Okay.
Whoa, look at that. I feel my finish again is related very much to a good solid leg action when I can really resist with my left leg and then let the right side of my body release through the shot into a good solid finish. Now it's impossible for me to see you, so we would recommend you watch through each section and hopefully find a particular aspect that applies to your game.